This is a pro conversation, all roads lead to recreation. And my co-host for today is Michelle Kandari. And I'm going to get her to introduce herself.
Awesome. Co-host. I think that's a promotion. I love it. So thank you, Maggie, for that. I notice a lot of my students online, so I love to see that. I'm a professor and coordinator at Canadore College in North Bay, and super excited that we're pulling this together in these great conversations from some pretty cool rec people. So I'm excited to share what we have to offer today.
Excellent. So we're going to actually hand over the reins to Parks and Recreation Ontario's very own Kathy Denyer. She's going to start us off with a land acknowledgement for today.
Great, and thanks so much, Maggie, and welcome, Michelle, and everybody else that is with us today. We would like to begin by acknowledging that PRO's offices is located on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Our work, along with that of our members and partners, takes place on traditional Indigenous territories covered by 46 treaties and other agreements. We recognize that our work is rooted in the use of this land, and we wish to use this acknowledgement as an intentional way to offer thankful recognition to the Indigenous communities that have been stewards of this land since time immemorial. We acknowledge the oppression of lands, cultures, and of the original peoples in what we now know as Canada, and we aim to contribute to the healing and decolonizing journey we all share together. We are working individually and collectively to challenge and dismantle the continued impacts of colonialism and seek to undo Indigenous erasure in our everyday lives. And I'll now turn it back over to our host today, Maggie, and to Michelle. And thank you again for joining us.
So we're going to get started today with a little bit of interaction. I'm going to copy and paste into the chat for everyone a Mentee Meter link. And I'm going to ask you to go to the Mentee Meter link and you're going to answer the first question. So everyone in the meeting, here it comes. It is in the chat. Click on that Mentee Meter link and you're going to head over to mentee.com. The use code is 9097-8584, but if you click on that link, you shouldn't need that. And you're going to go in and you're going to answer the question, what city and school are you joining us from today? And if you're not joining us from a school, just put in what city you are. You have two options to answer that Mentee Meter. Look at all of these great cities and schools that we're seeing here. We have some Canadore College, we have some North Bay, Kingston, Barrie, Calgary, Prince George, London, Ontario, Niagara Falls, Whitby. Excellent.
Maggie, I'll keep sharing the Mentee link. So if anyone is just popping in now, they might not have seen it earlier.
Everyone in meeting, put it in there again. There we go. Lots of people all over the place. Prince George, Seneca College, Georgian Bay, North Bay, Canadore, Halifax, Niagara Falls, Oshawa, Barrie. So we are definitely all over Ontario, which is a very exciting thing. Okay, so now that we know more about where you are and what school you're with, we're going to find out what you know about Parks and Recreation Ontario. So what I want you to do is in the next box, you're going to type in things that you think Parks and Recreation Ontario does. So what does Parks and Recreation Ontario do? Not as quick to answer this one. Might be a little bit harder than where you're located. That's okay.
I see. And for those of you who've been here a bit, you're going to keep seeing us, posting the Mentee. So Eric, Lauren, just click on that link and that's where you're putting your answers. Maggie just shared it again.
Okay. So you guys think that we do events, we provide educational opportunities for recreation professionals, we educate graduates, it's all one word, collaborate, educate, and advocate. We do recreation pursuits, provide professional resources. We organize recreation programs. We maintain provincial parks. We do workshops. We support continuing education of recreationists. We plan events. We do the Forum and Job Mart. We educate. We do event planning. We run events. We enhance the quality of life. We provide services to the community, provide resources and leisure around Canada. We do summer programs.
Maggie, you should be saving all this and like saying, hey, I need a raise. Look at all this stuff that I do.
I know. I'm really glad I do all of these things, except for maybe the parks in Ontario, but nonprofit association, we create resources and services for recreation pursuits and environment. So we do a lot of things, but I thought I would let you know a little bit about what Parks and Recreation Ontario does. So we are a nonprofit association that advances the health and social and environmental benefits of quality recreation in parks through evidence-based practices, resources, and collaborative partnerships, such as this one here with the colleges. We do a lot of things together. What we also do is we really advocate for the value and importance of recreation as a means to a healthy community. So in every community around us, there is a hospital or medical facility, but right beside or really close to that is a park. And we want you to recognize your importance in the role in Parks and Recreation Ontario plays in the health and well-being of Ontarians. If you attend a park, you get socially active, you get healthy, you get active physically, and the likelihood of you actually needing to use that hospital for anything other than the day-to-day health benefits is not there. So you would not necessarily need that option. We are the only professional association for recreation and park professionals in Ontario, and we value being part of our organization, that we advocate for Ontarians to get the benefit of your knowledge and your willingness to build community. You will get to meet people, hear from people all over the sector, all over the province. There is the value of meeting in person and virtually for knowledge exchange and learning, like you guys indicated. We do conferences, but we also have those other opportunities to be exposed to speakers who are rooted in practice and have seen real success in recreation. It's really this exciting opportunity to be a part of an association that connects you to your peers, thought leaders in the province, and really helps you to provide a provincial focus to recreation. It's a doorway to your success. Volunteers and students, it costs $85 a year in order to be part of it. There's many opportunities to engage. And what I'm telling you is that Parks and Recreation Ontario is as much of what you put into it as what you get out of it. So I challenge you students to get involved. Volunteer for a committee, send me an email, tell me why you want to be part of recreation, tweet, engage on social media, tell us what you want in order to help and support you in your career goals in recreation so that we can advocate and benefit you as a member of Parks and Recreation Ontario. So without further ado, we are going to go into a little bit of that education component of what we're doing today. And we're going to take a look at 4 fantastic speakers today who are going to give you the opportunity to learn a little bit about their journey and how they got to the role that they're in currently. I've lost all my controls. So if somebody wants to stop my screen share, there we go. And we're going to move on, and I'm going to give the floor right now to Dexter Slater, who's going to be able to tell you all about his great experience in recreation and his journey on all the roads that lead to rec.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. Hopefully everybody can hear me well. So as mentioned, my name is Dexter Slater, and I currently work for the City of Toronto. So I'm a recreation manager with the City of Toronto for Parks and Rec, and I basically have leadership over the Scarborough District in the City of Toronto. I will tell you that I've worked over 35 years with the City of Toronto. So this is part-time and full-time journey. I did do some stuff when I was in high school and university part-time. So just a little bit of my history. So I basically started working part-time, as mentioned, with the city in about 1986 while I was in grade 9. You know, back then they hired before 16, which is the age now, or 15. But, you know, I started out by doing some gym nights in a community in the Pape and Danforth area of the City of Toronto, where I worked in the Greek community, and I did some gym nights. These are after school, well, 6 o'clock programs where youth will show up, and it basically was a free-for-all open gym. You know, a lot of ball hockey, a lot of basketball and different things. And from there, I sort of started doing other things. You know, I worked my way up to program leader, so instructed in different sports and different programs that were part-time hours. I also worked summer camps. That was a great thing. And one of my great experience was being a playground leader. For you folks might not remember what playgrounds were like in the old City of Toronto, but they were basically hangout spots that staff were placed in the summertime. And we basically had all kind of activities, tetherball poles, muckers or ringette, different things for folks to come out, arts and craft. So anybody can come and hang out and just be in the playground. So I was that for a while, and then sort of progressed and did some youth outreach work and stuff. So some other things. So as mentioned, while I was in high school and university, I did work part-time. My goal was to be a teacher. That's what I wanted to do. You know, that's what some of my friends did. Had a few family members are a teacher, but I kept, for whatever reason, kept getting pulled away from teaching. Getting ready to go to teachers college, could teach, and you know, every time Parks and Rec kept calling me back when I was getting ready to sort of get into teaching and do those things. Somebody had like really pulled me aside, a good mentor, and said, hey, you know, the work that you do is amazing. You have this gift. You really should stay in recreation because you can offer a different scope, not just the education, which is very important, but you know, you're getting to work in the communities, reach out to youth, you know, put programs for people that are from lower income, and felt that I was really good at that. So I was pulled into basically recreation, and that's kind of where I started. So a little bit of my full-time recreation path. So as mentioned, you know, after university, you know, I started working as a CRP, community recreation programmer. So basically the full-time staff that are responsible for community centers and local level programs. So I did that for about 7 years in Old Toronto, inner city Toronto. And then after that, I was lucky enough to, you know, apply for a supervisor position, and ended up in North York. And again, I love the rec front level stuff, working as a CRP, and somebody is like, you're really good at this, but we think you can make more of an impact by being a supervisor, because now you have a few centers. And, you know, so I got into that. I basically was a supervisor. So I went to North York in, you know, the city, and I worked there for about 10 years as a supervisor in North York, doing active living programs and different programs. And then from there, about almost 2 years ago, a little over 2 years, I started out as a manager. Somebody thought, again, it's time for you to move on and do different things. You have some other skills that we would like to see you involved with. And so I applied for a manager position and was successful. So as mentioned, that's what I'm doing now. So the only thing I can say, just think of last year in COVID when the full lockdown happened in the city. I was the manager lead for all the skating at the AIR. So all those 54 AIRs that were open, you know, the only thing open downtown in the inner city of Toronto, and all of Toronto actually, that was my headache, pleasure, and pain. But it was great to provide recreation for the city of Toronto when there was nothing else to do. That was really reminded me of why I sort of got into recreation, because to be able to offer that service during that time, you know, the emails and the thank yous that we got back from folks, it really reached out to me personally, and really cemented why I got into recreation and why it's so important for members and communities and things like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about me a little bit. So, I came to Canada at the age of 12. I'm from the island, small little tiny island in St. Vincent, called St. Vincent. And I moved to Regent Park, growing up. Basically, I had a single mother and from a very large family, 7 siblings. So 8 of us in total, single mother. And if you're wondering, my father he was in the islands and, didn't believe in the cold and wanted to come here. So that's kind of where. So I grew up in Regent Park and experienced many things. I can tell you about friends that I've lost, because I've lost a few. Friends that have gotten into drugs, friends that are arrested. I can tell you what it was like being a Black youth, Black individual growing up in those. But I don't want to focus on that. I really want to say, outside of some of those things that could appear negative, there were a lot of opportunities for me growing up in Regent Park, and a lot of interesting people that I met, a lot of great people in that neighborhood. And unfortunately, the media tends to portray the negative stuff that happened in every community. But I've kind of been privileged. So one of my experience coming to Canada, I had no idea about recreation, parks and stuff. I remember when I came here at 12, I would walk around in the summertime, my first summer here, and I see all these shirts. They were white back then, but there was City of Toronto Parks and Rec shirt that people that work for the city in wading pools and playgrounds, all summer students, I would see them walking around. I couldn't figure out why do these people have all these shirts? Didn't know about Parks and Rec, didn't know about community center. It was just fascinating to me. And I was like, I think I would like to get one of those, but I didn't know. I saw playgrounds, I saw different things, but I didn't know those are stuff that I could access as somebody living in a community. Of course, I learned. So, I was privileged, when I sort of came to Canada, and one of the things that I was good at, I was really, good at playing soccer, and that's what I was told at least. So I started playing soccer with some friends and cousins that invited me to different teams and different places to go play soccer, which hit up. And because I was sort of okay at it, other competitive teams were picking me up. They're like, "Oh my God, come play here!" And my world started to change because my scope outside of my Regent Park neighborhood, which is all I knew, and my immediate family was starting to change. And I started to experience different things. Then now I went to wading pools and playgrounds because I hung out with my friends in these areas. And then I started to get an understanding of the larger recreation, what I did know. These are places that people can go and hang out and do different things and recreate. Of course, in the old inner city, everything was free. There was no charge. So I started, hanging out. I sort of left my neighborhood. And like I said, I hung out at the Danforth because I played a lot of soccer with Greeks and Italians in that neighborhood. And I would every day ride my bike. This is a good half an hour, 45 minutes ride from where I live to get to this because I enjoyed going to recreate and doing all this stuff, hanging out with my friends, playing tetherball, all the different things that we did. And I enjoyed that. So I would say sports and recreation, I don't want to say that it saved my life because I was privileged to have a strong mother with a Christian belief and instilled, some really good morals in myself. But, recreation did and sport did save my life to the sense. It provided me a path where my life and career is today. It opened up some doors. I met new friends and I went from here to there because of soccer. I got to the city of Toronto and found out there's different things that I can do. So it provided an outlet for me that allowed me to stay focused. So as mentioned, I played a lot of soccer growing up. I was on quite a few elite teams. And this again allowed me, as mentioned, to move to other neighborhoods outside of my neighborhood because, I was privileged to have some friends. My mom didn't own a car. So, friends that came in and picked me up and drove me to tournaments and places that I probably never would have gone. I didn't know about because they were all new to me. Just picture I'm 12, 13, 14, new to the country. And, it introduced me to a world and I got to meet a lot of different people. And it allowed me, got me a foot in recreation where I started volunteering and becoming a staff. So as mentioned, I did hang out at a couple of playgrounds and because I went there every day. I loved it. Started helping out the younger children or doing stuff there. And I was, lucky to kind of win an award we'll talk about. But one of the mentors that got me really involved is a gentleman named, Lucky Booth, which is somebody that I saw in Regent Park as a kid growing up. And I was happy, I was walking home one time in Regent and he saw me and called my name. And I was like, hey, he actually said my name. How did this guy know my name? I said, hey, you remember my name? He's like, yeah, of course I remember your name. You used to come out to soccer camp. I've seen you walk around, and this person was so instrumental in my life. Like he became a life mentor still today. This is a gentleman that I go to whatever I need to talk about, and I owe him. This is one of the significant mentors. Of course, I've had uncles and older siblings, that have been there. I've had some great mentorship through working with the city and people that I've met. So my family and friends have helped me get along the way. I don't know if it was, I wanted to talk, I don't know if it's mentioned. So I'm a director on the Pro Boats, the Parks and Rec Ontario board. I sit as one of the directors. I was lucky to be nominated this year, and I think I'm on a 3-year term. But this is an experience for me because while I have all this City of Toronto experience, I really have been bottled into the city and our Parks and Rec, thinking that we're a big city. I know better than everybody else. We don't need anybody else. But the learning and Pro has been so much. It opened my eyes about recreation beyond the city and what other folks are doing and the connection. So I'm really enjoying this. It's allowed me to bridge the gap and coordinate with other rec folks in the province. And again, learning that while Toronto is big, that I have a lot to learn around, about recreation outside of the city of Toronto. So just quickly, so education in terms of my education. So I did start like obviously high school and those things, but I did attend York University. I was there to study psychology. That was my original intent. And then after I actually graduated from Ryerson, where I have a public administration and governance degree. That's what I graduated from Ryerson. So I switched from York, as you can tell, to Ryerson. I do have a human resource management practitioner certificate as well, which has been good. I would also say that I'm a fully certified NCCP Natural Coaching Certificate Program, level 3 certified baseball and soccer coach. And I'm currently enjoying a course right now, taking a pro management certificate course, which has been really, really good. I also, want to mention, one of my certification, I'm fully certified as a joint health and safety member. Really all about having folks being safe physically, mentally, and emotionally in the workplace. Just some volunteering stuff that I've done, just to give a little background. So as mentioned, when I was younger, I went to these playgrounds and hung out all day. So I did get a volunteer award when I was about 14. It's called a Michael Sansoni Award, and back then, and this Sansoni was a gentleman, I guess, that left some money out of his estate to the city of Toronto to be given to one male and female volunteer every summer back then. And I was the first recipient of that award. So again, I'm 14, got called down to City Hall, and we're meeting a lot of councils and the mayor, shaking hand, blown out of my mind. Never had that experience, but so that's how I started volunteering. Those were important to me, to volunteer and give back. As well, when I worked in Regent Park, because I've worked there for years and obviously grew up there, I did volunteer and started at an actual soccer club for inner city youth. So we did a soccer program with a lot of youth that came out. At one point in our program, we were reaching in a house league up to about 150 to 200 participants. So I'm like, hey, we've got a thing here. I went to my boss and said, we got to do something beyond just a 9-week program that run in the spring or the winter. So because the summer was huge, and basically started a soccer program, put some rep teams together, and called them the Toronto Nationals, and volunteered and ran that for a while. So it was for youth in and around Regent Park, not just Regent Park. As mentioned, I am a baseball coach, so I've been coaching, volunteering coaching baseball. I'm a member of the Toronto Playgrounds Baseball Association and the Toronto Baseball Association. So I've sat in their committees, and I've coached baseball for quite a while, rep team and house league. And I've also worked with North York Baseball Association, where I've sat on their association committee, and I've coached there for over 5 years. Just before I finish off, there are a couple of committees. So with my job, I've sat on various work committees. So tennis strategy for Toronto, the sports strategy for Toronto, and these are councillor driven. I've also sat currently still on the basketball strategy. So looking at, there's so many basketball teams and programs, schools, so they wanted us to come up with a strategy on what we're doing, to link basketball. So that, and one of the other things that I've been involved with, anytime there's a new center, especially in Scarborough, we've got a couple of new builds that are coming up. So with architects and different folks, the community members, counselors, I've sit on a couple of new builds. These are to build larger complex community centers in Scarborough. So I sit on that. I also, if you guys know Regent Park, I was privileged to sit on the Regent Park revitalization program. So Regent Park is an inner city, urban Toronto community housing complex where folks live with their, basically taking everything down and putting up a new build. So I sat on there as to give a recreation perspective and a little historical perspective on where we need to go, what we need to build, how do we move out the community, how to bring the community back and get community back. Obviously there are a lot of other agencies in Regent, not just the City of Toronto, Dixon Hall, a bunch of different groups. So it's linking and working with those groups. I'm currently sitting on the Canadian Parks and Rec Association Anti-Racism Task Group. Like I said, I'm passionate about, racism and anti-racism. Those things are the things that are dear to my heart, and equality and all that. I also sit with the City of Toronto on the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Committee. So again, this is a council-driven committee that we've been tasked to look at ways to eliminate racism, especially towards folks of color in the city. So I sit on that committee for the city, and I'm also leading and sit on the City of Toronto Black Staff Network. This is something that came out of the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Committee. And also with my job, I sit on quite a few neighborhood action teams. So these are community groups and residents that live in different pockets or areas of Scarborough and the City of Toronto, where we work and look at ways to bring programs, deal with violence issues, food shortage, and different things. So that's sort of my path to recreation. Like I said, it's been all over the place, but from what I've done coming to this country and experience and not even knowing what recreation was all about, like I said, I could have become a teacher, but it was like, stay here. And I definitely know I am where I'm meant to be. And I feel that, and that's pretty well my path. That's how I got in recreation. So thank you for your time.
Awesome. Awesome, Dexter. So I'm tired just after listening to that, not for any reason other than, my goodness, you do a lot of stuff. And I think that's so amazing. And I love that our students are hearing this. You talked about skills, you talked about mentors. I love the conversations around certifications and volunteering and committees and, students and fellow coordinators. If you have anything else you want to share, I see you're all typing in the chat and thanking and all those other pieces. I guess one question that I had, you had talked about being kind of that programmer, frontline, and then, hey, I'm going to have more impact or try to have more impact as a supervisor and then as a manager. What skills would you highlight of your own based on, why you were approached to say, come on, let's go. We got more on the mind for you, if that makes sense. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it certainly makes sense. I mean, the community development piece was a skill, community impact, just my approach, to that piece. People are like, folks listen to you, you lead, but what they were saying, your scope is so small, because as a programmer, if I'm running a basketball program in the gym, I've got 13, 15, whatever participants. That's my scope. Thank you. It's been great. I'm going to sign out. I'm going to go home. They're like, listen, you can have more of an impact at a broader scope, not just for that program, not just for that community center, the small communities, but at large. So, recognizing my ability to do community development, community outreach, impact, and learning the larger budget, pieces, gaining political acuity, when you deal, and the larger you get, the more of a politician you have to become, and it's not to say you're going to be a politician, but you have to learn that you can't just say no. You have to figure out maybe there's an in-between between no and yes and all those, because you have more folks pulling at you. Folks just thought I had a way to work with others, and felt like, you can have a lot more impact by being in the community always. So I would say those are some things that I kind of learned.
Awesome. Some really cool things. And we do have an opportunity later to have general question and answers for our panelists, and we'll do breakout rooms. But if there's any questions about that as well. And Justine just asked a question, and she said, not meaning to offend, but is she able to ask your age, because she's an older student and she's saying, hey, I feel it's too late to start?
No, I'm 52 years old. Not too late at all. Never.
I love it. Awesome. Dexter, thank you for that. And we'll head over to our next speaker. So thank you again for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sarah Ann, here you are on the screen. Thank you. So Sarah Ann is the Associate Director of Recreation and Culture at the Corporation of the Town of Lincoln. Some of you are like, Town of Lincoln, where is that? She will tell you. But yeah, welcome. I'm excited to hear from you. And Sarah and I were actually just chatting, because this is our first meeting. Sarah's on the Pro Board of Directors as well. But her and I were just chatting about our former college coordinator at Canadore, Dave DeJordan, who is a huge mentor of mine. So I'm excited to hear from her right now as well. So Sarah, over to you.
Thanks, Michelle. It's great to be here. Great to meet you, and great to be at this great event today. I can't believe there's over 100 people on this call. So thanks for having me, and to Pro for setting this up. I'm so inspired just hearing Dexter's journey, because Dexter and I have just recently met each other through being on the Pro board, and it's always great to hear people's journeys. So I think that's what today is about, and hopefully mine probably isn't as long or as in depth as Dexter's is, because I'm probably about mid-career at this point. So I'll share what I have done and how I've gotten to where I am today. As Michelle mentioned, I do work for the town of Lincoln. So where is Lincoln? Let's start with that, since everyone knows where Toronto is, but they don't know where Lincoln is. Lincoln is located in the Niagara region, and we are right between Hamilton and kind of St. Catharines. Someone from Lincoln I see in the comments. How exciting. So that's where we are. We're a community of about just shy of 25,000 people. So pretty small municipality, but one that is definitely growing in size, which is exciting. So my role with the town is in the community services department, which is what our department is called. And we take care of all kinds of different things, parks and recreation being one. I also oversee a culture portfolio, which means that I'm responsible for a museum, which is very exciting and something I never thought I would be so passionate about and enjoy the work that I do in that area quite as much. And I also oversee a lot of our parkland development projects. And so that's opening new parks and building new parks, as well as redeveloping parks. So we're so small that we have to wear a lot of hats, the staff that we do have in my municipality. We don't have a big department. We're pretty small and lean, but we're great. And we have a lot of creative thinkers. Because we're so lean, we have to think creatively. So how did I get to where I am today? I've always worked in recreation. My very first job when I was 14, I was a camp leader, and I loved that job. And I moved on to be a lifeguard and a swim instructor in high school. And I did that all throughout university. And when I was at university, I became a high five trainer, and I also became an instructor trainer for the Life Saving Society. So I was really kind of a bit of a hot commodity in the Niagara region at the time when I was at Brock, because there weren't a lot of instructor trainers. So I was doing trainings all over the region to get instructors ready to work in pools. And at the time, I don't think I appreciated what an important role that was. It was definitely, it was a big deal, because I think that we probably wouldn't have had as many instructors and strong instructor base in the region if I wasn't doing that. There was probably only about 3 of us at the time that were doing all of the instructor schools in the region, which is a big job. One of my biggest mentors in my career was actually a pool supervisor that I had at Brock. I still keep in contact with her to this day. She came to my wedding. I think she was at my baby shower. So, I mean, a long-lasting relationship. And she taught me how to value employees, how to love your job, that balance is important. You know, she was responsible for about 100 student employees at a pool every year, and she made us feel like a family. And it's crazy to say that still so many years later, because it's been a long time since I worked at that pool, but I take that with me everywhere I go. And it doesn't matter if you're a student in my department or you're a full-time manager, I'm going to treat you the same way because I value you that much for the work that you're doing. And so I kind of moved through working in recreation jobs in high school and in university. And I honestly never really thought of it as a career path at all. I didn't know that it was an option for me. I was in a sport management program at Brock. And my goal, like a lot of people in sport management programs, was to, work for a professional sports team. And so I did that and I really liked it. But there was just always something that was kind of calling me back to wanting to work with people and want to contribute to my community. So when I finished my undergraduate program at Brock, I went to a postgraduate program, a certificate program at Algonquin College in Ottawa, and in the same discipline, because I really needed some practical experience. Post-secondary was a lot different than it is now. That's not probably surprising because I was in post-secondary quite some time ago, but at the time, university programs, while they were great for theory, didn't necessarily have a lot of placement opportunities or, in the field opportunities. And that was really important to me. I wanted to be able to experience different parts of the sectors and figure out where I wanted to land. So that's why I went to a college program. And I think I share that with you as college students, because I think it's important to know that every path is a bit different, and you can go to college, you can go to university. Work experience is important as well. And all of those mixes of things are going to help shape who you are and where you land. So I went to Ottawa and I took my program there. And while I was there, I worked for the Ottawa Senators Hockey Club, which was really cool. And a lot of people, thought it was very sexy that I worked for that team, and it was a cool story to tell. And they are my team, so that was also exciting. And the year I was there, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. They lost, but they went. So it was an incredible learning experience, and I really enjoyed my time with them. But there was always just something that I knew this wasn't where I wanted to land forever. And so I started to explore a transition back into recreation as more of a full-time, career path. I relocated back to the Niagara region, which is where I live now, still obviously, and I've never left since. And I've worked only for municipalities since I've been back in the Niagara region. So I started with the city of St. Catharines, and I actually worked for them while I was in university as well as a lifeguard instructor. So it wasn't the first time I'd worked for them, but in a full-time capacity it was. And I worked for them for a couple of years, working on building an indoor pool project that they had, which was really neat and a great opportunity. And then I moved to the city of Welland for about 10 years. And when I was in Welland, my focus was really on community development and volunteer capacity building. So that was also great because it was an area I hadn't spent a lot of time in, so very different experience. And now I'm just moving into my 5th year with the town of Lincoln, overseeing a much broader portfolio. I love working in a municipal setting. I think it's really exceptional to be able to shape the future of parks and recreation in a community. We just opened a new park in Lincoln about 2 weeks ago. If that Lincoln resident who was sharing that note in the chat hasn't been there, she or he should go there for sure. So we just built a new park called Rotary Park, and we built it during the pandemic, so over the last 2 years. And the community has just been chomping at the bit to get in it. And obviously we've had construction fencing up. So we took it down on a Friday, sunny day, and I have never seen so many people flood to a park in my life. And I've seen a lot of parks open. And I was just so moved to see how excited and happy people were. And that's really what motivates me to do the work that I do, is seeing the end result. And it was just wonderful to see how appreciative the community was of this space, how well utilized it's been. And it's been like that really for the last few weeks nonstop. I took my son to that park a couple days after it opened because he had heard about it and seen pictures of it as we were developing the drawings. He's 7. And I said, so what do you think? You ever want to get a real opinion from, someone on how a new space is? Ask a child, because they'll tell you quite bluntly whether they like it or not. And my son said, Mom, this is such a great park. Like, look at how happy people are. People are so happy. And I probably could have cried right in that in there. I'm a bit of a crier. And I was just, those are the moments that you really realize the impact that doing projects like that and working with the community on projects like that have, because that park will be there long after I am in Lincoln and long after I'm probably retired. So it's nice to have that legacy left in a community that people you'll never even meet will benefit from. So I guess in terms of schooling, I've probably covered a little bit of that already, but I do really believe in lifelong learning. I don't think that your learning stops after you graduate from your program in college. And I would encourage all of you to look at lots of professional development opportunities. I was on your website on Canadore College prior to coming on today, and just to kind of see what you guys are learning about right now. And I was very interested to see all of the different things you're learning that I would have never learned in school. And in particular, I saw that there was a course about Indigenous communities and history, I believe, which I think is great, because that's certainly something that has become incredibly at the forefront of what we need to be considering when we're working with the community, are those, underrepresented histories and groups. So you might not recognize that as being exceptional, but I certainly think that's great. I do have a number of different professional designations that I've worked on over many years. I'm a bit of a professional development junkie, I guess, that way. So I do have a registered general practitioner designation through the Ontario Recreation Facilities Association. I'm also a certified park and recreation professional through the National Park or Recreation and Park Association, so a CPRP, which is actually American. But that's one thing I would definitely recommend, that there's lots of great PD here in Canada, and you should look into that first and foremost, because you want to make sure that you have a Canadian standard. But there's lots of things beyond internationally that are available as well. I did take the professional development certification program through Canadian Parks and Recreation Association, which I think is probably about, 5 or 6 years old now. And it was all online, and I got to meet lots of really great colleagues that I still connect with from all over the country. So I would recommend that as something to look into. And I was in the first cohort of students who took the Parks and Recreation Management certificate that Dexter mentioned, which was developed by Parks and Rec Ontario. And that's held at Schulich School of Business through York University. It was great. It was one of the best 3-day investments I ever made. And I know that they're offering it online now, which is even better, because you can take it from anywhere in the province. You don't have to necessarily go to Toronto to take it. So that's fantastic. And I've been working just most recently on a certificate from Fleming College in sustainable trails development. That's just an area of expertise I don't have, and I'm interested in it. I want to know how to build better trail systems, ensure they're accessible, make sure that I understand the design process. And I've learned a lot in that course so far. I'm not done it. It's going to probably take me several years to get through it, but that's okay. And I like it because, I think having that base knowledge of how to behind the scenes, I may never build a trail, but I want to know that if I'm hiring a contractor, that they're doing it to the standard that I would expect. So it's just an area of, I would say, personal interest, and probably an area of weakness that I just don't know enough about, that I want to know more in. So that's something that I will continue to kind of plug through it and learn about. So in terms of volunteering, volunteering to me is really important. We know that volunteers are kind of the lifeblood of our communities. And so we have to walk the talk as recreation professionals and give back to our communities as well. So I do volunteer, not necessarily to influence my career, but because I want to serve my community. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, that I don't do it to put it on my resume. I do it because I want to be there. It's also good on your resume as well, but I don't think that's the reason to do it. So I'm really involved with the Niagara Children's Center, which is a children's treatment center here in Niagara for kids with disabilities. And I became involved with that center because my son, who I was mentioning, is about 7.5 now. He has a disability and he visited the center a lot in his early years. So it's an area that's near and dear to my heart. I have always had an interest in working with persons with disabilities, but now that I live with one, I'm even more interested in that. So I volunteer with them quite a bit as an ambassador for that facility. So if they need someone to, give a speech at a golf tournament where that golf tournament is donating money to the center, or be on the radio or something like that, I'm happy to play that role. I kind of do whatever they tell me to do. I also am a student mentor. Yeah, I am a mentor to a mentee at the Brock Sport Management program. I'm still involved very heavily with the university and the college, and I encourage you to stay involved with your school as well. I think that's really important because I do engage in research with both institutions, both professionally and to help support their students. As mentioned earlier, I'm on the Parks and Recreation Ontario board, so that's a new role for me. I'm a newbie. I'm still learning. I'm excited to be able to serve at this time. And I'm also on the Pathstone Foundation, which is a fundraising arm of Pathstone Mental Health here in Niagara, which is our children and families mental health service agency. So I'm happy to be there because obviously we know there's very obvious ties between physical and mental health. I don't even think there's a difference. It's just health. If your mind isn't healthy, your body isn't, and vice versa. So I think it's really important to be in that world, and I'm happy to be there and support kids. It's really something that is of interest to me. And just a couple more, and then I think we're going to wrap up because I know that I'm over my time. I just recently joined the World Urban Parks Healthy Cities, Healthy Committees, Healthy Cities, Healthy Parks Committee, pardon me. And that's really cool because it's international. So I've got to meet some really neat people from Malaysia and England and South Africa that are on that committee as well. So I'm looking forward to the breakout room and chatting with any of you further, but thank you for having me today. I'm glad to see such a big turnout, and I'm happy that there's so many people trying to move into our field. It's the best field in the world. I'm a little biased, but I love it. Thank you.
Awesome. I love it, Sarah. And I love that you mentioned you visited our Canadore website to see some of the courses, and colleges will all have similar courses, so I like that. But I'm laughing at the same time because when you were saying that, I was on your LinkedIn profile because I was trying to get your bio earlier, and I'm like, well, Sarah, we've just connected. So that networking, the connection, and this is something that I know we all talk about with our students on a regular basis: how important networking is, how important connecting. The volunteering. I love that you called yourself a PD junkie, because I'm sure my students are tired of the different opportunities I keep giving them. But with that being said, I love that they're always like, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this opportunity. So thank you, Sarah, for, making me look really smart in this situation. Awesome. So thank you. You'll see you're getting lots of kudos in the chat as well. So thank you for all of that and sharing your journey. Kari, let's throw your camera on and I'll do a quick little introduction and send you on your way as well. So right now, I'm on the Pro website because I went, Kari, to grab your bio just so I had some good details to share on you. But the thing that I really liked, this is like her first statement, says, Kari has connected her professional know-how with her personal passions. Like, how cool is that? Like, really, how cool is that? So, Kari, someone reads this. I read this. So, Kari is the manager of community services with the town of Gananoque. And she's here to chat with you about her path as well. And I know some really cool things that I see when you were in Huntsville, some of those amazing opportunities and events that ran while you were there. But yeah. Kari, I'm going to throw it over to you and no need to hear from me.
That's great. Thanks, Michelle. And thank you for having me. I messaged Michelle earlier during the beginning of this presentation and thanked her for the opportunity to do this, because looking back and reflecting has been wonderful. It's been amazing to think about what I've done, what I've been able to accomplish because of recreation. So actually, Michelle, right now, I'm actually the manager of recreation and facilities for Loyalist Township. So
oh my goodness,
that's okay. That's just a recent change this year. So I've had quite an in-depth career where recreation actually spans both the private sector and the public sector. But as Michelle said, this really does go back to my youth. It goes back to very similar to what Dexter said, in that I grew up in recreation. I grew up in a hockey arena on a baseball field. You know, my parents were involved in the boards of everything we did, whether it be hockey, those types of things. Very involved in high school and in college. So I'm actually a Fanshawe College graduate. So anybody on this call from Fanshawe, kudos to you. Was probably the best 4 years of my life. So I actually took law and security administration at Fanshawe, and then I moved into recreation leadership, is what it was called back then. And my goal was actually to work in prisons with young offenders in recreation. I had it all set up to go. I was ready to do my placement at the institution right beside the college, and the provincial government went on strike that first day of my placement. So guess what? Can't cross the picket line. I had to divert, I had to change, I had to be flexible. And honestly, that is probably the best thing that happened to me, because it's taught me that, you know, keep doors open as I move forward in my career. So growing up, I played hockey. All of my friends, all of my mums and dads, you know, you all have many of them, were all from my sporting and my recreation experience, whether it was kids camp or working public skating. Those are all the typical recreation jobs that I had while playing high level sports myself, trying to get a good grade in school so I could, you know, go to post-secondary school. And, you know, it was an amazing experience, and I wouldn't give it up for the world, because it led me to so many more experiences. Recreation has allowed me to meet so many different people. It has allowed me to explore, you know, Canada. It's allowed me to explore Grand Cayman, and I've moved around a lot. So what happened for me was after school, I actually wanted to go back for another 2 years at Fanshawe, and my mom got the acceptance letter and said, absolutely not, go get a job. So after 4 years, she kicked me basically into the real world, the working world, and I had to go find a real job. Apparently working at the gym at Fanshawe College didn't cut it for my family. So I had to go find that full-time job, which I did at the gym at Fanshawe College. At the time, it was a private company that was operating it on behalf of the college, and I got a job. And very quickly, within about 4 or 5 months, I no longer had a job because they weren't able to operate within budget, and they went from 11 full-time roles to 2 in one morning. So being the newbie, right out of school, not much experience, I was out of a job. So I started getting the itch, and I said, you know what, I need to find something different. I need to, I had lived at home while going to school. So I was like, I need to broaden myself and figure out what I want to do here. So I started applying to positions in a variety of private and public, both with towns, cities. I started applying to resorts. I applied to cruise ships, and I actually got a job with Celebrity Cruise Lines, and I was on the ships working with children in recreation doing programming. I learned very fast after one really rough cruise that my motion sickness and cruising really was not the best thing for me. So as I came off a cruise, I had learned that Lake Louise had called, Chateau Lake Louise, out in Alberta in the heart of the Canadian Rockies. And I had applied for a position there just in the sports department. And it was a great lead-in for that facility or that hotel. In the winter, basically, I got to ski in the morning and I ran the pool and playroom at night, did programming with kids and with all of the different guests. And then in the summer, we would do everything from whitewater rafting and canoeing. Like I worked on the canoe docks. And I was able to work my way up. I went out there on a 5-month contract, and I was there for 6 years and had 6 different positions. My highlight out there was really being staff activities coordinator, because 97% of staff live on site. It's important to keep these people busy and engaged. So I would do things like cross-country skis by moonlight. We would do dart tournaments, you name it, we did it to keep staff engaged and out of trouble. I also was a special events manager in Lake Louise, so I got to actually organize the full Millennium celebrations for the resort, which was pretty amazing. So we did everything from working with interpreters to take people out into the mountains, all the way to big food and beverage events and balls. I did get the itch to leave Lake Louise, the Canadian Rockies, believe it or not. It's an amazing location. I got the itch to leave, and I actually got a position in a resort in the Grand Cayman, in the Cayman Islands. I was there, I worked as a conference services and catering manager. So it's a bit of a different twist from recreation, but it was a skill set that was transferable. So I was able to go and organize conferences for incentive groups that were coming down. So these are groups that had earned their vacations. And it's everything from a morning meeting for an hour or two to then planning their excursions and doing recreation programs on the beach, dinners by pool deck, those types of things. It was a fabulous way to get down into the islands and out of the cold of Lake Louise. However, I missed Canada. I learned really quickly that I appreciated the work ethic of Canadians. I learned to follow up. And for me, I couldn't wait to get home to Canada. So after 16 months, I accepted a position in Winnipeg, back with Fairmont, in a city property of a hotel, doing conference services and catering again. And to be honest, it was 2 years that I really didn't enjoy. I missed recreation. It was more of a business focus. I wasn't enjoying living in the city. Dexter, unlike you, I can't do the city. I am a rural girl. After living in wide open spaces out west, living, near downtown Winnipeg, to me just didn't cut it. And I struggled with trying to find my passion and who I was, and I was missing the recreation. So after 2 years, my mentor from Lake Louise, who I kept in touch with over the years, he gave me a call, and he was actually the general manager at that time at Deerhurst Resort in Huntsville. And if you know Deerhurst Resort, it is very much a recreational resort. There's lots of activity, lots going on. So he made the phone call and I jumped on it. I moved to Huntsville in 2006 as the director of conference services and catering, and doors opened for me. I was involved in the Canadian National Pond Hockey Championships. We were integral in bringing the Ironman 70.3 Muskoka race to Muskoka for the first race, and it's still there today. There were so many different events we did, but about a year into my position, I was approached by my general manager, and we moved myself into the position of director of operations in anticipation of just a little small meeting of about 8 people called the G8. And for 3 years, that was my life. If you can name an organization or agency related to politics and our federal government and G8 and international politics, I dealt with them. I got to meet Barack Obama. I actually got to plan his jogging route with his security detail. So even though it was this big meeting, there was still that, it was nice to see these international leaders coming in, and they were still looking for those recreation opportunities. So while I was at Deerhurst, I certainly did a lot to try and broaden myself. I sat on the board of the local Chamber of Commerce. I worked a lot with our sports and recreation group on everything from building team building to what are we doing for groups when they come in, like spousal programs and children's programs while mom and dad are sitting in a meeting, those types of things. So Deerhurst provided a lot of opportunity for me. But after the G8 happened, I was lost. I didn't know what to do. For 3 years, all I had focused on was planning this G8. So I went back to my mentor, and we sat down and we had some chats, and we started talking about what's next for me. And that's when an opportunity came up with the town of Huntsville and moving into the public sector. It was a bit scary at first for me because I had been in the private sector. I'd reported to a local board or a board of directors. He said, just look at it as your city council, your town council is your board of directors. So I had some great mentorship. Mentors will provide you with good advice. They'll also provide you with the hard answers in terms of, you might not want to hear it. It might be hard to hear, but they're going to tell you it anyways. And they're going to try and guide you along the way. So, Joseph, who was my mentor, he was amazing. I got into the town of Huntsville as director of community services, and it was quite a portfolio. So I had everything from parks and cemeteries, facilities, arts, culture, heritage, marketing, economic development, and then of course, recreation services, including customer service. And what had just happened because of the G8 in Huntsville, they had gone from a small 1 rink, 25 meter, 6-lane pool of about 65,000 square feet to 185,000 square foot double pad, Olympic ice pad, community center on the back, lease space to include private gym, nurse practitioner's clinic, coffee shop, all on a promise from the mayor that it would cost the taxpayers no more money. So when I went into this position, I had a challenge. I had a challenge to answer the need of the community as well as the need and the wishes of our political body. It was a great position. I learned a lot, and I learned very quickly that, sometimes you need more than one mentor in your life. And I quickly found a mentor in my CAO with the town at the time, who guided me and was able to provide me with the skills and knowledge and support I needed to go from private to public life. For me though, this was my dream job. I'm back in recreation fully. This is exactly what I want to do. I embraced it and I ran with it. I continued to do professional development, as a lot of the other speakers have already talked about. I actually attended Schulich as well, but I took the master's certificate in municipal leadership, which was three one-week courses over a year. And the learnings from that were amazing. And I can share that, a lot of the professional development I've taken has been related to recreation, whether it be through Pro or Orpha, but I've also done a lot through other municipal, provincial and national agencies. So for instance, AMCTO offers municipal administration programs. So as you want to build and grow your career, you may want to look at not just targeting just recreation, but what are some of those skills and knowledge that you're going to need to build and expand. So while I was in Huntsville, I had the amazing opportunity of working with Hockey Canada on the women's U18 National Women's Hockey Championships. We hosted them in Huntsville and it was fantastic. I actually got Hockey Canada to admit we're not a walk-up town. And what that means is Hockey Canada had said, don't rely on walk-up window for all your ticket sales. It never happens. You have to pre-sale. So we were struggling pre-selling because women's hockey and girls hockey wasn't popular in Huntsville. So I went out to the schools, our organizing committee, which myself and a volunteer chair led. We went out to the schools, we talked to them. We got, during the games during the day, we brought the schools in and the kids went home and talked about this. And they all said, we got to come back and watch Ontario tonight. And I was running through the arena trying to print more tickets, and I got Hockey Canada to admit that we are a walk-up town. So that to me was a career highlight. But we've done other things, events. We did a lot of the Ontario multi-sport games, whether it be 55 plus, parasport, and the youth games. So I've done a lot of more event management as well as the recreation as I've moved through my career. Unfortunately, though, I had to leave Huntsville for family, personal reasons. And I actually took a tiny bit of a step back, but it was a huge learning experience. I actually went to, 2019, we moved to Eastern Ontario, and I actually took a position with the town of Gananoque as the Parks and Recreation Manager. That was 2 years of very interesting. Sarah mentioned multiple hats. I definitely wore multiple hats. That community doesn't have organized programming. They just have infrastructure. So I was working on trying to attract grants to start trying to build programs, working with local agencies, trying to get a council to understand the importance of recreation in the community. It was going well, but it was about a 40-minute drive for me one way. And being a rural girl who likes to just be close to home, I had an opportunity to come up in my own township with Loyalist Township, and I took it and was manager of recreation and facilities. So now I have recreation programming, which includes, dry land as well as pool. And then I also have parks and facilities, and it's all municipal facilities, heritage properties. I've learned a lot about heritage. But for me, it's been career growth as we go, but I go back to even my education, and all of the skills and knowledge I learned through my education and through every position, they're all transferable. So whatever door opens for you, and I've been a firm believer that I don't say this is the path I'm going to take and it's the only path I'm going to take. I'm very much a firm believer of I'm going to see what door opens, and if I take the opportunity and step through, I will. Before I left Gananoque and came to Loyalist, I had the opportunity to actually join Parks and Recreation Ontario as a board member as well. And that has been a great learning experience. I'm actually looking forward to hopefully post-COVID and getting a bit more interaction in person. I wanted to do that for my own personal growth, for networking, and also for growth of our region. So some of the other things I've done with professional development are, like I said, Schulich, but I've also done a lot of the different trainer courses that I can use to help support some of our local groups, whether it be mental health awareness and those types of things. As for volunteering, I am a hockey trainer. I've coached high school badminton. I've also been part of fundraising groups within communities. For instance, in Huntsville, I assisted community living with some different things to do some fundraising for equipment that they needed for some of their programming. And also a lot of just of the different events that I've worked with had to, sit on organizing committees. And then of course there's committees through work, which they're not always as fun as the ones that you choose to be on yourself. So for me, it's things like Municipal Heritage Advisory Panel, the Recreation Committee or Community Services Committee, depends on the community you're in, what they call it. I've also done a lot with local girls hockey. So in Huntsville, when I first moved to Huntsville, there was no girls hockey, there was just a women's team. And when I left, the girls hockey had grown to a point where they had a team in every age group, which was fantastic. The girls weren't having to drive an hour to play or play with the boys. Other things that I've done, certainly Huntsville Sport Council. I helped start the Huntsville Sport Council while I was there. And I used to be a member of Meeting Professionals International as well. So from there, all I can say is, my journey is unique to me. And again, thank you to this group because you've given me an opportunity to really sit back and look at where I've been and everything I've done. But I still have a long way to go. My career is not even close to being over yet. So I will continue to foster relationships and continue to try and build myself, my skills, and continue to get training. So I hope that gives you at least a quick overview of who I am and what I've done, and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome, Kari. That was beautiful. Again, I loved hearing everything, and Bailey's saying, she hopes that her career after Fanshawe is amazing as yours. So that's great, that little connection that's there. So I love I wish I would have counted how many times you said mentor, not in a bad way, in an amazing way. Hindsight now, I'm like, how many times were mentor said? How many times were multiple hats, volunteering, all those different pieces? But, thank you for sharing your journey, your path. It was really insightful listening to you speak and share, trials and tribulations, really. And some things that started really small and some things that started big and moved around. So thank you very much for that. All right, Renee, last but certainly not least, if you want to throw your camera on and I can introduce you. There you are. So Renee Paquette, she is the Recreation and Facilities Service Manager with the town of Mattawa. And I'm super proud to say a Canadore grad as well. So I shouldn't say that, but I have the microphone, so I get to say that. So Renee, let's throw it over to you. I'm super excited for you to share your journey with, I know a lot of your journey, but I'm pumped for you to share your journey with the crew.
Thank you so much. It's so great to, I was going to say to see everyone, but I can't really see anyone, but I see that you guys are all on still. So thanks for hanging tight to hear my little spiel, and shout out to, all the other previous speakers, Dexter, Kari, Sarah, you guys, inspire me to do more. So thank you for that. I can only imagine what it does to a young person. So thank you. And thanks for my hair. I just got a cut. I needed a haircut today, but yeah. So my name's Renee. I am the small town of probably most of the speakers. I work in a small community. come from Timmins, a bigger community, like 52,000 bigger. I went to Canadore College in 2004 to 2006, took the rec program. From there, you know, recreation just became who I am, or has become who I am today. It's really exciting to be able to be here today, and I'm very humbled, and I always get a little emotional because I'm just a big baby that way about talking about my journey, because I feel so blessed to be actually in front of you guys talking, because I remember being part of, you know, you guys sitting there and listening to other people talk. So it's pretty cool, that kind of full circle. So know that that full circle is very, very possible, whether you're in a big urban center or in a rural community like mine. The sky's the limit. So I'm always happy to talk with students, or anyone for that matter. I'm always on the path of learning. Every day I learn something new. I've been at it for about 15 years now, so still young in my career, still lots of learning to do. So I'll share. So Canadore from 2004 to 2006, right out of school, was able to apply for a position in the community of West Nipissing, which is Sturgeon Falls, which is kind of between Sudbury and North Bay, if you had to position yourself. Community of 14,000 people. My first role there was as it was opening up a brand new youth center. So basically I was given a building and make it happen. I was on a grant, for a Trillium grant, making $12 an hour. And I busted that for 4 years to bring that thing to life, to have people coming in it. It's been really such an honor, such a privilege to be able to, again, to talk to you guys today and talk about this journey of youth center. So started off with, so we had a building, then it was get people in the building. Then it was, how do you retain people coming in, setting up a youth advisory committee. So it really, really became a great place to hang out. We had pool tables, couches, programming. We were feeding kids every Wednesday because kids weren't eating. They were coming to the youth center and trying to eat my food, which I didn't mind sharing, but I thought, there's a problem here in our community. So, which later on turned into event planning. So festival planning. We had April Wine and Dr. Hook and all these kinds of bands show up to raise money for this food program for the kids in our community. So did about 4 years of that. So from programming to, and this is where my, some of my fun experiences lied. We used to do bandstand bashes, which were like a bunch of kids, like screamo in the mic in an arena with like hundreds of teens jumping around mosh pit. And Renee, you don't see how tall I am, but I'm not a super tall person. And witnessing these types of events for the first time was interesting. Still, I think I'm a little still scarred by it. I think Michelle and a lot of other students I've talked to about trying to manage mosh pits. And you don't go to school for that. They don't teach you that at Canadore, I tell you, and how to calm down a crowd. And, you know, again, when you're 5 feet, nothing is a little difficult when everyone else is taller than you and there's many of them. So anyways, I remember trying to like, you know, shut the lights or trying to like with my flashlight. I remember like I had a little flashlight the cops gave me and they're like, just flash it and the kids will stop jumping around, because I was like being trampled in the mosh pit to get the kids to stop jumping around. Anyways, I think I almost dislocated my shoulder at that time. I'm not sure. But it was pretty painful. I remember there was a rad that got broken. Anyways, I survived. Good news, lived to tell. Never was part of a mosh pit again. And I don't think that's part of my life goals, you know, did it, done it, check it off, moving on. So now anytime I hear that kind of music, it's a little scary for me, but so that was youth center stuff. You know, that was such a warm and, you know, the warm and fuzzies in the work that you do. Oh, that was probably the best work I've ever done, working side by side with youth who were struggling, who needed someone to listen to, who needed someone who could feed those basic needs was so my French wants to come out, valorisant, like it was so like feeds the heart. So youth center was great. Then an opportunity came out with the municipality again, but we're taking care of the arena. So now I was going into a more of a coordinator community services opportunity. So, and I've always been a person who strives for more and challenge, because once I get something down and I got it right, I kind of want to move on to the next. It's like, hey, what's the next challenge coming up? So once I felt the youth center was kind of on its way and doing a really good job, I kind of moved on to something else. And that's just something personal for me. And then, of course, I had the opportunity to work with a great group similar to Parks and Rec Ontario, Northeastern Ontario Recreation Association, NEORA, who they have been my extended family. People like Michelle, people from the north. Like I said, I'm situated more in the north area. So these people for the past 15 years have been my mentors. I have many. I'm lucky. I'm very, very fortunate to have these people that I call on a regular basis, probably weekly, maybe less sometimes, depending on what I'm working on and or what I'm doing. And mentorship, these people have been lifesavers for me. I had an arena problem about a couple of weeks ago, and some of them provided some great advice. So if you take anything of today at all, and I think you heard it from all speakers, is connect yourself, network, meet people. Don't be afraid to call. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to email, because we're all here. We all want to see each other succeed. Recreation isn't a field where we root for each other to fail. It's the opposite. We want to help. That's what we do. That's in our nature. That's our passion. So if anything you take out of today is connect with one of us, connect with all of us, because we're here to make sure that we all succeed. And if we can play a role in that, then that's just awesome. So I got the position. I applied for it. It was an external position. So I applied for it, got it. And that role entailed taking care of 2 arenas, taking care of a pool, parks, playgrounds, hall spaces, so weddings, all that fun stuff, a couple of cemeteries, which I was like, what, recreation? I did not know we took care of cemeteries. It feels like the opposite of what I do. Why am I taking care? So when they say from the womb to the tomb, very true. So a cemetery, it was like cutting grass, so that was all right. So what else did I do? So programming, of course, programming events, trying to get people through the door, selling gym memberships, taking care of gyms and certain facilities, working with the community, beautification, the downtown, garbages, all that fun stuff, coordinating all of it. So that was awesome. I loved doing that. Working in a unionized environment, that's difficult. That's not going to be easy. I'm not going to lie. And of course, the more staff you have, probably comes with more headache, is what I'm learning. But you know what? I moved just recently to a smaller community, and I'm almost eating my words, because I'm like, I thought smaller would be easier, but maybe it's not. Everybody knows everybody's business, so it's some challenges there, but that's okay. I call them challenges because that's what I love. So I did that for about a good, I don't know, 8 years. 8 years. I took care of the rink and the pool and all that stuff. And again, kept sitting with NEORA, kept attending those meetings, conferences, networking, going to pro conferences, going to NEORA conferences, kept trying to just learn, right? Because like I said, 15 years in, I still learn every single day. I learn something new. So then I got the opportunity I got called into the office. My director brought me into the office, and he said, with the CAO, which is always scary, you're like, are we like downsizing? Because like when you're management, you're not protected. And they were like, hey, we want you to go over to the museum and revitalize that space. You've done a great job here, and you have a lot of energy. So we want to bring you over there. Since you've got everything going good here, let's go fix the museum. And I was like, museum? Like, I don't even like history. Like, I don't even know like anything about history. So again, challenge accepted. So I spent 3 years at the Sturgeon River House Museum in West Nipissing, which is off the beaten path. It's a big old log building, beautiful, on the river, on the Sturgeon River, has a set of trails. And that was the challenge. You know, I was like, oh, what am I doing? I'm no longer in recreation. But little did I know that this facility was actually multi-use and it wasn't being maximized. So I created escape rooms. I went to wedding, what would you call them, conferences, where I tried to sell that hall so every weekend in the summer, that place was booked. So we were raking in the money, which was great because I had seen a bit of a dip. So we raised our revenues by about 40 grand that year, just in events and programming. I held, Pinterest events. I've done Christmas parties, traditional Christmases. We ran the Christmas parade, Halloween indoor events for kids safe Halloween, all kinds of really cool events to bring people in, slime nights, anything. Because I thought if I can get them into this building, they're going to see how cool it is. And a lot of the people are teachers. So next thing you know, I created a mobile museum because the teachers were saying, we can't afford to go to the museum. The bus rate is killing us. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to create like a little box. I would have liked a van, but I was on a budget. So I created like a tickle box, I'm going to call it. And I would wheel it around into the schools. I'd set up in the gym with a couple of volunteers and I would bring the museum to them. So we had stations on wampum belts and Legos. We would do it in Legos. We would have a scent station talking about medicinal herbs and their purposes. We had pelts where we would talk about the different types of animals and noises and the things they ate. We talked about the Métis sash and we showed them how to make one with bracelets. So it was really hands-on learning, but we put a fun spin on it. So I did about 3 years there, and most recently, I took on a position here in Mattawa. I've been here, it'll be a year next November 16th, it'll be a year. Here I get to take care of an arena, so facilities. And then I have a library I take care of that's run out of a school. So that was a new portfolio, library, museum as well here. So museums, creativity is definitely what you need. So marina, I got a marina too. So we just redid all the docks this year, which I'd never done. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm just going to be completely honest. I was working with engineer teams. I would leave there with headaches because I had no idea what anybody was saying. It was like they were talking Chinese to me. So lots of learning, lots of leaning on people and being like, can you explain that to me? Because I don't understand. And don't be afraid to say that. You know, a lot of people sometimes will look at me and they're like, why are you asking so many questions? But I need to understand. I need to be able to go to council because you're going to be that person that's going to have to explain it to someone at some point. So don't be afraid to ask questions and to understand. Probably my biggest pet peeve in this industry has been, oh, just, pretend you didn't know, or just, you don't need to know, let us handle it. Oh man, I hate that when people would say that to me, and they still say that to me sometimes. And I'm like, no, I need to understand. I want to understand. Explain it to me so that I can understand. I take notes. I got like 13 of these binders going on, but that's okay. That's how I stay organized. So yeah, I'm here now. I'm working on a huge festival that brings in about 5,000 to 10,000 people. I'm hoping to turn it around because it has been in a deficit for the past 15 years. So I'm trying to turn it around to be hopefully a profitable event. So again, kind of breaking the boundaries. I'm the newbie here and everyone's looking at me with four heads and saying, oh, she can't do that. You can't do that. This is impossible. But I'm testing, I'm trying to bring some creativity, to bring some new challenges and some new opportunities. So I'm always the one a little bit stirring the pot in a positive way, though, always in a positive way. Actually, this Friday, we have a Derek comedy. We have a Derek Sagan coming as a comedy show. So they haven't had anything like that in like 10 years. We had a drive-in this past summer. They had never had a drive-in here. So it's exciting. Recreation is my passion. It's my life. I can't stop thinking about it. Maybe sometimes not a good thing, but I love what I do. And please, please reach out if I can do anything to help guide or questions. Super always willing to do that. And again, thank you, Michelle and Pro, for the opportunity to talk about it.
Awesome, Renee. Thank you. I'm so happy my microphone wasn't on when she was telling her mosh pit story. I've heard her, I make her tell that story regularly. So I think she just put it in her speech because she knew that I would make her talk about it at some point today as well. Yes, Renee's energy is amazing. And I saw some comments in the chat about her creativity. And, you know, hopefully if you get in Renee's breakout room in a few moments, she can tell you about her owl puke story, which is a whole other crazy experience when she worked at the museum as well. So thank you, Renee. Thank you, Kari. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dexter, for your time today. I don't see any questions in here yet. There may be some that come in, but I think, you know, we're a few minutes, actually, we're not behind time because Maggie's going to only take 3 minutes to tell us about our breakout rooms. And then in the breakout rooms, we get to go.
That's right. So we are going to move over into breakout rooms at this point. You are assigned to a breakout room with one of the amazing presenters that you've just seen. When it pops up into your screen, just click select to go into that breakout room. When there's 2 minutes left of our breakout, a reminder will come in. Don't click on that button until your presenter tells you that it's time to go back to the main room. And we'll all join back in the main room so that we can have a debrief at the end of our sessions. When you go into those breakout rooms, they will not be recorded. So it's just in there, have a chat, turn on your camera, ask a few questions. You will be in there with one of the presenters as well as a support staff in there as well. If there's any technical issue or you get bumped out of the session, please join in the link that you signed on with and that Alex will support you to get into one of the breakout rooms. Okay, so we're going to try this out. Alex, are you ready for this? Okay. So your pop-up should be there. Push the join button and go and join your breakout room.